Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today. We're excited to welcome you to our UDA Academy free class on getting your subs on board with TeamLink. I'm Holly Gibson, Senior Product Specialist here at UDA Technologies, joined by my colleague Jordan Davis, also Senior Product Specialist here at UDA.
Good afternoon, everyone, or morning or evening, depending on where you are in the world.
We're also joined by our colleague Sydney Dorsey, Senior Product Specialist here at UDA, who will be on the keyboard to answer your questions as we're going through today's class. We'll provide some more instructions in just a moment on how to do that, but first let's take a look at what we plan to cover in today's workshop. This class today is really designed to give you some practical knowledge on how to get your subcontractors to increase adoption of their TeamLink portal, how everyone on your internal and extended team benefits from that, and then really just go through the steps from a practical standpoint of, how to get that set up, what that looks like in your ConstructionOnline account, and then what that looks like from your subcontractor perspective as well. So we'll be talking about how to keep subcontractors maybe from being overwhelmed by too much information and how you can really control what they see. How doing this is going to really make life easier for you and them by reducing error and rework and some of the mistakes that get made when there's gaps in that communication, and then how documentation that your subcontractors can provide with things like photos and notes can help you and your subcontractors avoid liability in case client disputes arise. You guys are on really the same page and everything is well documented. So we're excited to dive into this workshop today and really get our hands dirty looking at how to get all of this set up and really how your team members can use that.
Yeah, we're really excited to share not only some best practices from the UDA Technologies perspective, but we'll be weaving in examples and recommendations that we've learned and picked up along the way from our clients and really their ingenuity in ways that they've engaged with and really gotten their subcontractors and other TeamLink users to buy in and make the most of ConstructionOnline. Now, as Holly mentioned, our colleague Sydney Dorsey is manning the keyboards, and really, speaking of your ingenuity and the ingenuity of our clients, we would love to hear from you as we work through this webinar. We'd love to know what questions you have about interacting with your subcontractors through ConstructionOnline, or if you have helpful tips or tricks to share with us and with everyone else in the audience today, please, by all means, feel free to send those in using the questions panel. Now, your tips and tricks might not be questions, but we'd love to read them just the same. You can find the questions panel inside of the GoToMeeting panel, which should be on your screen that you have opened up since you've joined us here today. Really, Holly, at this point, we'd love to find out what drew you in today and really how we can help best engage with you and help you engage with your TeamLink users and your subcontractors as we start to move through today. So we'll give just a second for you to let us know who you are and really what you're hoping to learn today. And then once we're ready to go, we're going to dive right in and we're going to get started.
Yeah, so let's look at getting started. We'd love to hear from you guys both now and throughout the session. We'll do our best to get to all of the questions. Sydney usually will flag those for us that look like they'll be especially helpful for the entire group, and we do try to make sure that we can get to all of your questions if possible. Now, as we go ahead and dive in and start looking at getting started and how to get things set up, a couple of things that are helpful for you guys to know. If any of you are joining us brand new, if this is the first time that you've joined one of our workshops, or maybe you're new to UDA Technologies, ConstructionOnline is our industry-leading web-based project management platform. So at this point, ConstructionOnline serves about 750,000 of your industry peers all over the world, managing billions in construction every day. And when I think about all of you, our wonderful clients, there's so much variety, so much really great variety. And so what that means is that the tools you work with in ConstructionSuite are often quite flexible because we know that you're out there doing a variety of work. Now, TeamLink is no different. We work with so many of you who are builders or maybe residential developers. We work with general contractors. So we know that usually if you are in that segment of construction, acting as the general contractor or prime builder on the project, you're often coordinating many different subcontractors and need to be able to share information with them and really manage the process pre-construction all the way through the end. We also work with many of you who are specialty contractors or maybe even subcontractors yourselves. But sometimes what we see there is, you are maybe a specialty contractor who sometimes works as a sub on certain types of projects, and maybe sometimes you actually sub out the work. TeamLink will work for you as well to be able to communicate with your subcontractors. So it's super flexible, and I'm excited to jump in and really show how to get that set up for your team. Now, what we're looking at on my screen right now is a preview of what one of my TeamLink portals look like. So I have a subcontractor in my account, Ted Bishop. Ted is a framer and I work with him frequently, so I have a TeamLink portal set up for him. And what we're really looking at right now is what Ted sees when he logs into his TeamLink portal. So I thought it would be good to take you guys a little bit through what would your subcontractor or TeamLink members see when they actually log into ConstructionOnline.
Now, and this is keeping in mind, we've actually put the groundwork in to make it worthwhile for the TeamLink user to log in. Starting with the overview screen, we can see there's a good bit of rich information right on the front page. I think the first thing that my attention is drawn to, Holly, and I don't know if this is pulling you that direction as well, but the project announcements, those really stand out. And between you and me, I think this is one of the most underutilized but highly impactful features for engaging with TeamLink users, both in terms of just communicating exactly what's going on in terms of updates for the project, but also giving TeamLink users and subcontractors direction for when they log in for the first time. This is a really, really important feature.
It is. So the project announcements are, on purpose, really front and center. So if you are using those in your portals, that will be one of the very first things that your subcontractors see when they log in, is any of those announcements that you've made. Now you'll notice here on this screen, I have this one that is got a little different icon here in the corner. That just means from an administrative side, when I was setting this up, I pinned this note to the top. So this one is always going to stay at the top. Any other announcements will come beneath that. And you can really customize the way these look if you want them to get a little bit higher priority, or maybe we want that to read a little bit bigger. You can really customize. Your subcontractors will also see on their homepage really a quick snapshot of the next couple of weeks up on the calendar, so they can see, again, what you've given them permission to see here. They'll be able to see their game plan, which will just list out for them anything that they're assigned to, an upcoming weather forecast for the project, and then of course the project map as well, which they can click on from their browser or from their phone if they're logging in that way, and be able to get a live Google map so they can get some directions to the job site that way. So a lot of great information on this front page. It's intended to be a summary for them and help them see really quickly what needs my attention. Now, any new items that are assigned to them will show in this latest update section. And one thing to note here is that my subcontractor, Ted, actually does work for me on a number of jobs. So just like in your ConstructionOnline account, your subcontractors can be assigned to multiple projects and just be able to switch between those to see what's relevant for each job. Now, as we go through the different the modules or features that are available to them, they can come in if they want to see, perhaps more information. We've got 2 weeks showing on the calendar here, but if they want to see a full calendar of what's been assigned to them, they can head right over to the calendar section. They'll have some great options for just viewing that on a traditional calendar here. They can dive into project tracking and do things like enter daily logs for you. They can see their full game plan, any files or photographs that have been shared with them. So here it looks like we've shared a project folder album, a progress photo album, and then a safety folder. So tons of great information that they can come in here and access.
Well, and circling around on this as well, not only can they access files that you've specifically shared with them, but they can also upload photos or upload files to share with you as well, just from that same page.
That's right. So the TeamLink portal can be very interactive, and we see people using it, different ways with different types of subcontractors or trade partners. It's a great place for them to be able to log in and get information, so be able to just view information that you've shared with them. But it can also be that interactive place where they can share information with you. They can, send messages to you. They can, upload new information, create those logs, check things off as complete. And all of that is being communicated back to you in real time. So it's really a wonderful tool for facilitating that type of communication.
Yeah, and that's really critical here. It's in virtual real time. This isn't waiting for an email to send across from some type of email server or dropping or landing in someone's spam folder. All of the updates, both from your platform to your subcontractors and from your subcontractors back to you, is done in practical real time. This is something that I don't think that we can overemphasize this enough. Speed of communication is very important when it comes to keeping people up to date on the status of a project or when something's been complete. And I think this really kind of taps into our first topic we were hoping to cover today. In terms of reducing error or trying to cut down on rework for a project, all the information inside of the platform is as accurate as it possibly can be because it's consistently and constantly updated without any effort from the subcontractor to request an update. I think that this is really helpful, especially when we're looking at something like the plans as well. I've heard from a lot of our clients that it's a struggle a lot of times to keep everyone on the same page, both figuratively and literally when it comes to the plans. Well, Redline Plan Room, for instance, actually keeps up with the most recent versions or revisions to the plans. So as long as you're keeping the plans updated inside of ConstructionOnline, you're automatically keeping everyone else who's a part of this project and has been shared the plans up to date as well with the most recent revisions.
That's right. In my plan room here, looks like I'm on V1 of all of my sheets, but any revisions that happen, so any of these sheets that get a V2 or V3, that's automatically going to be right on top. So there is not going to be any sort of guesswork. Really, they're always going to just automatically have the most up-to-date information, so it just really eliminates confusion.
Oh, I can already see some questions coming in, Holly. Someone was asking about how subcontractors can upload or share updates. We're going to circle back on this, so stay tuned. What we were hoping to do now was really show a snapshot of what you can achieve inside of the platform, inside of the subcontractor's portal. And next, we're going to move into showing you how you can actually set this up and begin to invite subcontractors into the platform and show you from their perspective what that process looks like and really how simple it is. I think this is a really common question, Holly. What are my subcontractors seeing or receiving? How can I make sure it's easy for them to log in? How do we take this and make it very simple and straightforward and in a state where there's no questions to be asked at all? And we're actually really excited to show you what that process looks like today.
Yeah, so let's jump into setup. And answering that question, how can a sub or a trade go ahead and upload a photograph for us or update their progress? One of the things that we'll want to make sure is that their TeamLink portal has been set up to allow them to do the things that you want them to do every day. We give you, our customers, really ultimate control over what's going to show in their portal. So we don't want to just automatically share all of the project information with them. We really want to put that control in your hands so that you can come in as you're getting everything set up for the project and make sure that you've made some decisions about what you want those portals to look like. So we'll go ahead and start. I've got my project up here, but if we want to manage those settings, you'll first want to look in your company menu drop down here, and we'll go down to our ClientLink and TeamLink settings. So we'll just take a quick peek at how I've got mine currently set up. Now, right now, we'll go ahead and switch over to our TeamLink section. This is what's going to control that TeamLink portal for subcontractors, suppliers, trade partners, any other extended team members that you want to give some access to. And you'll notice that it's super easy to turn things on and off. So those announcements that we looked at, we don't want to use those. We can just turn that off and they'll never even see that it was supposed to be there. And I think that's one thing really important to think about when you're setting this up, is that if we turn something off, they're never going to miss it. So you don't have to worry that they'll see a big blank space that says change orders, warning, you can't see this. It just disappears. So it's a really seamless experience for them. So we'll go ahead and turn announcements back on. So with my portal, I've decided I want to really focus on some communication. So we're going to use announcements and messages. recent files and pictures. I've turned off change orders and selections. That's something that I'm going to maybe keep a little more control over, but I know many of you do like to include subcontractors on change orders, have them receive those email notifications when it's a change order that they're assigned to. Same thing for selection. So you can really customize this. And that really goes into, one of the benefits of TeamLink and having a specific portal for your subcontractors and trade partners is that you can really keep the focus on just what you need and want them to see. It really simplifies the process a little bit to whittle that information down. It keeps people from feeling overwhelmed by information that they don't need and really puts front and center the information that you think is most important for them to have or the tools that you really want them to work with. So I've left a couple of my features out. Here I'm going to turn on that calendar for my subcontractor. And in this case, I've chosen to only show events that my subcontractor is assigned to. Now, you might want to choose the other option and show them the full project calendar. With this option, they'll be able to see everything no matter who's assigned. So that can be helpful for planning on their end to be able to see, what's coming up. So again, you have both of those options. We can choose to show the schedule, maybe hide part of the Gantt chart here, or not. I've chosen really not to hide anything on the Gantt chart. I want them to see everything. We also have daily logging. So this is what gives your subcontractors the permission to create and edit their log entries. Punch list, which will give them access to punch list items that you've given them permission to. So they'll be able to go in and check those off. Things like to-dos, their game plan, RFIs, submittals, and the plan room. So we've left a few things off that really aren't going to be relevant for our subcontractors here, but really turned on almost everything else so that we would be able to create things like maybe a submittal, assign that to our subcontractor, and have them be able to go in and really give us that information. Same thing with files and pictures. So we've got our settings all done, and then our next step would be really to go ahead and assign our subcontractor to this project, or make sure that he's assigned to the project.
Yeah, and that next step is actually also very straightforward. You'll head into the team page to assign or control who has access to the project. And you can see we've got a few sections here. There's a space for ClientLink contacts. This would be your clients. Most likely, it could also be a space for maybe the architect on the project. Although you could make an argument that an architect would fit right inside of the TeamLink contact section. There's actually some clients that we work with who assign their architect and design teams to the TeamLink section, specifically so they can have access to a few extra tools like the daily logs. But really adding a TeamLink contact is really straightforward, and it's going to handle a lot of the invitation and sign-up process for you. Whenever you add a new TeamLink contact or subcontractor to the project team, ConstructionOnline will automatically send an invitation to that subcontractor via email to notify them that they've been added to a new project and to give them a way to log into the project. And it's actually a really, really straightforward process. Now, if you want to prevent that, there are ways you can set the project to a pending state to prevent invitations from sending until you're ready. But in a lot of cases, when you're starting to add contacts to the project, chances are you want them to go ahead and start receiving notifications about that project.
Now, in terms of what those notifications look like, so in this case, my Hamilton project here is live, which means any of my TeamLink or ClientLink contacts who are added are going to receive that immediate invite or notification. A lot of times people will ask, well, what does that look like when it hits their email? So I'm actually going to pull that up for you here. So I have my subcontractor, Ted Bishop. I've logged into his email address, and so we're going to take a look at what that looks like for him. We can see that I'm already sending him a game plan for other projects that he may be associated with. Today, I added him to the 2272 Hamilton project, and here's the email that they get. So it just lets them know that Holly's created a project login for you. Notice that your company logo is going to show up on those emails that go out, so they'll be able to recognize your logo and your brand in addition to your name. And then it just lets them know, hey, we've created a project login for you. You'll be able to log in and view the latest project activity, pictures, milestones, and more. Gives them some basic information about the project. So here's our project name and address, the login information that they'll use. So here's their username, and then they'll go ahead and click the button to view the project. This email also gives them a way to download the mobile app. So they are downloading either the TeamLink app or your company's custom mobile app, if that's something that you have enabled on your account. So that goes ahead and directs them to get that downloaded. So everything they need is really packaged together right in this email. And when they select View Project, it's going to take them to either to their project or to their login page. If they've never logged in before, they're going to enter that email address and their password and just log right in and access the project information. So we'll go ahead and take a look at what that looks like for them.
Holly, while you're logging in, I also want to point out in that email, there's a link that the subcontractor could open on their mobile app or their mobile device to actually download a mobile app version of the portal that we're looking at today. Helpful pro tip. I know that a lot of subcontractors are moving to mobile first access. We highly recommend that they take a look at that app.
Now, we do have some great questions coming in saying, hey, how do they know what their password is? How would they know what that is? And in most cases, like in this case, this particular framer has been my client for a while, so they're doing regular work for me. This isn't the first login I've created for them in the portal. So for them, when they get their invite, since their account is already active, it's really just going to remind them of what their username is. Now, when you add them for the very first time, they'll be invited to, that's going to be included in that project email that's sent. So if you're inviting a brand new subcontractor that's never used the portal before, they will be provided with their password so that there's no guesswork on the login credentials. Now, we've also had another great question coming just to say, hey, what about issues with subcontractors not receiving the emails? How do we make sure that those are being received? So there's a couple of good best practices there. Part of it is that, email clients, there's not a lot of control that you have there. So it lands in their inbox. If they're interacting with your emails, usually that's going to be front and center for them. Sometimes if they, if they don't click on the emails after a certain period of time, they may start going, like I know with Gmail, they'll go into sometimes like a promotional folder or a spam folder. And so if that's the case, really you just want to remind them to be checking those areas there within their inbox. If you ever have a question about emails being sent out, you can always, of course, give us a call and we can confirm that. But I've never actually seen an issue where the emails weren't going out and being delivered successfully to the recipient's inbox. It's just really, sometimes a matter of filtering on their side, which really leads me to the next thing that as part of this setup process that I often will see my customers do is, in addition to this automated email, very often they'll have kind of a project kickoff email that they'll send out to their subcontractors, a chance to put together some documentation outside of just the TeamLink portal, but maybe some additional things or forms that you need them to sign, package that together and include some instructions about, a reminder that we'll be using the ConstructionOnline TeamLink portal to communicate information for you. This is the link, this is the login page that you'll need to go to. You'll sign in with your email address, and we actually even have a wonderful PDF getting started guide that you can include with that or pass out to your subcontractors to give them some information about, how to log in and kind of remind them how that's done. So sometimes it is nice, in addition to the automated emails, for you as the contractor to take a little bit of time and put together a packet for them. We see people do that, very successfully. It's a great way of kicking off a project.
Yeah, and in addition to setting up the email and making sure that you send that out, I really do want to emphasize there's two, I can divide our clients into two groups. There are the group of clients who have trouble or struggle sometimes to really engage and have their TeamLink users or subcontractors engage with them, both through ConstructionOnline and just in general. And then there's the camp of our ConstructionOnline users who don't struggle with that at all, or at least not as much. And what I've found more often than not is that the camp that finds it easier to communicate with their subcontractors they're much better at taking initiative and communicating information first. And I can say really confidently that the clients who take the time to put together a welcome announcement email, the welcome packet to really just tell them brief information about the project, those clients are the ones who don't say that their TeamLink users are having trouble logging in or that they're not, paying attention to the updates in the platform, because they're really making it worth the subcontractor's time to take a look at the platform instead of just sharing a quick schedule that doesn't get updated half of the time. Mm-hmm. Highly encourage putting together a welcome email announcement, and even maybe setting that up as something you would use as a template.
Yeah, that's right. Now, a great question, or several great questions coming in, so we're trying to keep up with you guys there. But, with that is, very often a separate email that we see people send. Very often they'll actually just come into ConstructionOnline and send that out as a message. So that's usually the easiest way to do it, is you can send that as a message or an announcement, which also is going to generate an email. But that's usually over and above kind of the automated emails that are coming out of ConstructionOnline. It's just a way for you to personalize that and include some additional details, which might be, unique for each project. But, nevertheless, still things that you want to get communicated, right up front. So if we go ahead and come in under our communication tab, you can create either a new conversation here, which is great because it gives you the option to go ahead and attach those documents. Or you could do it as an announcement as well. So a couple of easy options for getting that done. Now, I notice, and thank you, Sydney. I noticed Sydney has distributed that Getting Started guide for TeamLink to you guys. So if you haven't seen that come through yet, there is a handout section in your GoToWebinar. So we have provided that as a handout for this meeting. You should be able to grab that and download it and start using it immediately. That is something that we can customize as well with your logo and branding. So if you'd like to have a customized version of that PDF, definitely, feel free to email us after today's meeting and we will be happy to work on that for you. Now let's see. Yeah, there have been so many great questions coming in. So we're looking for a master contact list for each project. So each project under the team tab is going to provide you with that master list of everyone who is involved on the project. You can jump in and see their details really easily. Now from the subcontractor side, we'll take a look at what this team page looks like when our subs log in. You actually do have a little bit more control over what's going to show up under their team. So you can definitely, upload maybe a contact list of other subs or people that, you might want them to have information for if you want to put that in maybe as a document. But for their project team, it's really more about communicating with you so they can see themselves and they can see any other of your company team members that you want to give them access to see, and it'll show that contact information for them. And really they can come in and create a quick message to send over to you at any point just by heading into that team section or by selecting this contact project creator here as well. Now,
and that'll send it as a message. Yeah. Go ahead.
Exactly. It'll just send a message. And so what that's going to look like from your side, if we come into our team area, we'll actually head up to our project details. And there's a section here for key roles. This is what really allows you to determine who on your team is going to show up as points of contact for your subcontractors or your clients in that ClientLink or TeamLink portal. You'll notice that I have all of mine turned off except for myself. But maybe if I wanted other people's information to be shown, maybe we want Jordan to be shown. We'll say he's our project manager. We want his information to show up. And once we make that selection, Jordan's contact information will also show up in my TeamLink portals for subcontractors as well.
This lets you set up and really control who they should be contacting. I know you said that before, Holly, but this is a pretty common question as well of controlling who should contact whom on a project. There's also something else to note here that's a little subtle, but might come into play depending on the type of industry that you're in and really the types of projects you run and the types of teams that you work on or work with. You can actually assign key roles to people who are not part of your company. So if you did, for whatever reason, want a specific TeamLink user to be contacted, maybe the architect, for instance, you wanted to share their information with other people on the platform, you could do that from that same key roles menu as well.
Now let's jump in and take a look at outside of that general setup and contact information. So at this point, what we've done so far is we've of course created our project in ConstructionOnline. We've taken a look at our ClientLink and TeamLink settings to make sure our TeamLink settings are what we want for our subcontractors. We've also looked at the project team and really how to add people in and what those invitations look like. Now what we want to do is jump in and look at sharing specific pieces of that project and how you can make sure that that happens. Now, for some of the things that we'll work with, like schedules, for example, we really just turn that on or off in our TeamLink settings. That's it. But for other things like files, you do have a little bit more control. So even if we turn on that file and photo option for our TeamLink members, that doesn't automatically share all of your files and pictures for this project with every single subcontractor. We still want to give you some ability to come in and really decide which of these files is going to get shared and which is really more so for your internal team. So you'll notice when I come to my files section in the project on ConstructionOnline, what I'm first looking at is this all files section. Now this section is really designed to show you and your company employees all of the files that are shared really within your internal team. So it looks like I've got several folders set up here. I've got a few items in some of these folders, but by default, these are not necessarily going to automatically be shared with subcontractors. Now, for sharing with their portal, we really have two options. One, we can come into any of these and basically choose to copy to TeamLink. What that's going to do is take this folder or album, make a copy of it, and drop it into my TeamLink portal. So if I choose copy to TeamLink, you'll notice that now I'm prompted to decide, am I going to put this as visible to all subcontractors, or do I maybe want to share this file only to one specific sub? So you really have, again, a lot of control over who is going to see this information when you share it. I've already done that for this folder, so I'm not going to copy it again. But you can always double check to see what you've shared with your TeamLink members by heading to your TeamLink files section. That's just going to show you, okay, here I can see that I've shared my progress photo album and my safety folder with all subcontractors on this project. And it doesn't look like I've shared anything privately with any of the subs, even though I can do that as well.
Yeah, a really easy way to think about this. Sorry, Holly, go ahead.
Well, the other question or the other way to share, and it's a common question I get, is, okay, so that's just going to copy the folder. What about new things that get added to that folder? Are those automatically shared? And when we copy that folder to TeamLink, it's not going to automatically share additional items that are added to that folder. But if we want to set up a live link, so basically a folder that's live and anything that you add to it is always shared over to that portal, that's going to be located within the options section for any of your folders and albums. So you choose those options, and now you can see that I can, and have in this case, check the box to share with TeamLink, which just means that this folder's content will always be visible to the TeamLink members on this project. So now that I've done that, you can see I get a little TeamLink badge here on the folder. That's just letting me know that this is one of those live folders. So now I've set it up so that anything I drop in here is automatically going to be shared to the portal. So super easy to set up and gives you, again, a lot of ways to control how you want this information to be shared.
Now, a really common recommendation that I give when I'm helping companies first get started, Holly, is actually to set up a top-level TeamLink folders or TeamLink files folder, and then to share that folder with all TeamLink users. The same is true for clients and client files, which is a little outside the scope of today's discussion. But this really helps cut down on questions inside of the company about, well, if we want to share files with our subcontractors, where do we put that, right? It really helps solidify a specific location for files that are shared, and it cuts down on the risk that your team will accidentally overshare information by dropping a file into, let's say, the wrong folder. It's a pretty popular setup that I've seen, and I'm not ashamed to say that I borrowed the idea from someone a long time ago. It was working well for them, and I think it will work well for you as well.
Now we do have another question coming in. So with this progress photo album, will that always update when photographs are added in? So Right now, the way I have it set up is I've only just copied it over. So if I add new pictures here, that's not automatically going to be shared out to my TeamLink members. But if I wanted it to be set up that way, I would just, again, head to that options area, share with TeamLink. And once I've done that, now I've created that live link. And any new pictures I add are automatically shared. Now, of course, your subcontractors can also come into their portal and do things like upload or add files for you. So we'll take a look at what that looks like. We'll go into my project files section. So now I've switched over to my subcontractor view, and I can see that I've got some folders that I can access. I can see these wonderful pictures of the framing progress on this job. Looks like this is one of those nice 360 images, so it's great. We can see a lot of great progress and detail here. But if I need to share something as the subcontractor, Ted here can come in and just hit add new. He can upload a new file for you. A lot of people use this method to have subs upload things like their bids or insurance documentation or invoicing, anything like that. So they can come in, choose that upload option, and then just either drag and drop or browse their computer, load in anything that they need to share with you. That's not going to be shared out with any other subs. So this is just a place where your subcontractors can upload things for you, like pictures or files that are now going to be shared between the two of you. Same thing for your photo albums. They can come in, add pictures here as well. So super easy for them to come in and share that information. That can also be done through the mobile app. So I know I've seen a few questions come in about the mobile app. They do have access to that and can upload items for you that way as well.
Now, do keep in mind, we actually have a situation here where we've copied across one folder or one album, and we've also shared the second album. So this is something that you'll want to keep an eye out for if you haven't decided on which method you want to take. They don't overwrite each other. The copied folder or the copied album is going to be completely separate from the shared album. So you want to make sure you pay attention to that from your side when you're setting up the portals.
Definitely. Better to be safe than accidentally delete information. Now, we've looked at how to share files and pictures here. Now, if you're wanting to share plans specifically, because that's really a common thing and a common benefit, it's one of the ways when we look at how to avoid things like rework. One of the easiest ways to do that is just to make sure that your subcontractors always have the most up-to-date set of plans available to them. I actually spoke with a client earlier this week who said, I'll email a plan set, and then, the next week, my subcontractor's calling saying, I've lost it. Can you email it to me again? And it would be so great to have that central place, where they could log in and just access the information. And that's really what this is intended to do, rather than having to, text or call you to say like, hey, I don't have access to the plans, or I've misplaced them, or I accidentally deleted that email. They're just always going to be here. Now, just like with your files, you can choose whether or not you want to share the plan room, and you can also choose which parts of this get shared. In most cases, though, it's going to be most beneficial to go ahead and just share out the entire set. And so just like with your files, I can see this is the current set for my internal users, but I can go ahead and check to see what's been shared with my TeamLink members. Now you'll notice that this one gives you a really clear, easy option to just turn sharing on for all sheets, or you could pick and choose which sheets in this plan set you wanted to share out. I like the share all option. I think it's usually going to be the cleanest and most beneficial to everybody, but if you do like to fine tune a little bit, you've got that option available as well. Now you'll notice here that I can see all of my sheets are shared with the TeamLink user. I can see these are all on a V1, but again, if we did have revisions, the trades are notified when new sheets are uploaded, including things like revised sheets. And when they log into their portal, they are only ever seeing that topmost revision. So if we upload it again and we had a V2, that's all they would see. They're not going to see any past versions. They're just going to see the most current set of these plans available. So here's what that looks like in their portal. So the great thing here, not much different. They're seeing that same current set of plans as you are. The only difference is really they're just always going to be seeing that topmost revision. They can click on that and come into the plan room and be able to see any markups that you've made public, any comments that you've put on the plans. Maybe if you have tagged or pinned things like RFIs or punch list items to the plans, they'll be able to see those here as well. They can also, of course, enter comments for you. So if they enter a comment here and post that, you'll be notified immediately. And you can see they have the same types of nice features that you do as well. Things like callouts and links to those detail sheets are all going to be available for them, just like they are for you. Now, one thing that I really love with the plan room is if we actually head over to, I'm going to head back over for just a moment to my account. Now, one of the things that you can definitely do throughout ConstructionOnline is pin different items to your plans. So if I'm coming in on my plan set and I want to maybe take a punch list item and tag it to a specific sheet or a specific place on the sheet, that's really great. It helps me, communicate a little bit better, where those items are. So we'll go back to our framer, Ted, here. If I wanted to take, one of these punch list items and just drag it onto the sheet, I can do that right here. I can actually go ahead and even assign him to this punch list item. So we'll get that done. I can tag a trade if I need to do that here. And now that we have that done, we'll save our changes. And you'll notice in the portal, that pinned item will now not only also show up on the plan, but if the subcontractor is looking at maybe punch list items that are assigned to him, there's now this little indicator here. This is just the pin icon, and it lets us know that this particular item is associated with this sheet. And all they have to do is click on this. It'll take them directly to the correct sheet so that they can look at that punch list item or that RFI and be able to see that, from their side as well.
Yeah, so they can actually
just a really easy shortcut for them. Now, Jordan, I know we also wanted to talk about how subcontractors can do things like add documentation in addition to photographs, other types of documentation that subs can upload for us. So we want to, that is, again, in addition to the plan room, one of the things that we see people doing pretty commonly is allowing subcontractors to come in and enter their daily reports from their TeamLink portal or from the app. It's just an easy way for them to get those submitted. But in addition to being easy, there's definitely a lot of additional value that comes from that type of documentation.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've worked really, really, really hard to simplify and cut down on the number of steps it would take for subcontractors to actually submit their daily posts or their daily logs, daily updates, whatever words you would use for that. We really focused in on, at least from their view, cutting out some of the unnecessary items like the weather tracking, because while from their perspective, they don't really, that's not information that's going to be too relevant to them, unless maybe it rained or something like that. But you would already have tracked that on your side of the platform. So by cutting out that element from the top of the page, it does make it a lot easier for subcontractors to find the form they should be filling out. And the rest of the steps here are pretty straightforward. They can either post that, they did the work, which they probably should, and note down other information about maybe if they had a crew on site, how long they worked, if that's something that you would like for them to submit to you, and a space for them to enter in notes. Now, from the mobile app, this is even easier because there's an option to use speech to text to actually cut down on the amount of time it takes to submit this log. I'd encourage people to think about this like sending a text message in a lot of ways, because this is how people are receiving updates from subcontractors now in a lot of cases. If it's not through email, it's through text message. You can encourage them to use the mobile app instead through a couple of creative ways or creative incentives. How you do that is up to you, but I've heard a few recommendations from clients, and I'm sure if you use your imagination, you can find ways to incentivize subcontractors to try something or to do something. But really, we're working consistently to make this simpler and simpler so that both your team and your extended team, subcontractors, can find and post updates. Now, I would encourage that you encourage your subcontractors to use either the work log or if you really just need a quick update, a project note to detail what happened on site, because the system will track who posted the note. If picking their name from a list is just a little bit of an extra step that you can't encourage them to do.
Yeah, the project note is super simple. Now, while Jordan's been talking, I've actually gone ahead and entered a work log from my phone. So I'm logged in on the TeamLink app as my framer Ted. I've gone ahead and entered that from my phone, and you can see that that shows up immediately, so they can always see a record of what they have posted. And then you are also notified immediately as those logs come in, so that you can see those happening in real time. Now, one of the things that you can do as well in your portal is set up reminders for those daily project logs. So, we get it. We know that people are busy. Sometimes they need a little bit of a nudge or a reminder. And your subcontractors, especially sometimes, you might have people that you're working with that are really wonderful at what they do, but maybe just not as used to using technology day by day. Very often you have people that are also really, maybe they're used to using technology and kind of always on their phone, but also maybe just super busy and, need that little nudge at the end of the day. So there's a lot of different ways that you can approach this, but here, if we want our subcontractor, Ted, to make sure that he gives us a work log by the end of the day, every day, we set up this reminder. And the great thing about it is a smart reminder. So what will happen is if we set that for 5 p.m. every day, then every day at 5, ConstructionOnline will basically scan the system and see, has Ted Bishop entered a work log for the 2272 Hamilton project yet? And if the answer is yes, that's great. It doesn't do anything at all. So it's not going to get extra text or emails or anything. But if the answer is no and that log has not been submitted, then the reminder will go out either by email, text, or both, just as a nudge to make sure that they don't forget to come in and enter this information.
And if you ever need to edit or update the reminders or turn them off because the project is starting to wind down, you can do that from this menu here. Or let's say that the trade responsibilities for this project have finished. You can selectively remove specific reminders, which is why it would make sense to split up the reminders maybe per group or some type of listing of individuals so that when their work is finished, you can remove them without removing the rest of the reminders you've set up for the project itself.
Now, I know we're almost running out of time, and it looks like we still have a lot of great questions out there. Many of those, looks like Sydney's been able to help almost all of you with those questions. So I do see one, though, that's been flagged that I'd like to just come back to before we wrap up, because I think there's an opportunity to just look at one more weapon in your tool set that you can use. We've talked a little bit today about, getting your TeamLink portal set up, how to set the permissions, what those invitations look like, and some of the benefits you can expect to see from using it. A couple of questions have come in about revisiting or coming back to the idea of, okay, so let's talk again about subcontractors that are going to be working for me or assigned on multiple projects at the same time. So sometimes you've got overlap. I mean, and that is not unusual. That's probably a very common setup. Something that I see from you guys all the time is that the subcontractors you work with, They really are trade partners. They're people that you often work with, not just for one project, but for almost every project that you do, or you'll have certain resources that you're just going to work with very regularly. So it's not unusual for them to have in their portal multiple projects that they may be assigned to. So a couple of things to note. When the project is completed and you decide to archive it in ConstructionOnline, it also archives it or removes it from the TeamLink view as well. So it's not it doesn't have to be there forever, but when we come into our TeamLink, this is just going to show the list of active projects that this subcontractor is working on for us right now. So they'll be able to really quickly just switch from project to project. We can see that we've been looking at our Hamilton project here today, but there are a couple of other jobs already loaded in for them, and so they'll be able to just switch between those really quickly, see what's on the calendar, upload information for you. So a lot of great things that they can do for all of those projects right here in the portal. Another thing that's really wonderful to use in this particular setup is going to be the game plan. Now, they do have access to the game plan within their portal to see that for each project. But one thing that I really love is setting up a game plan that's going to go out to them by email, because it will pull all of those projects together into a single email report and send that their way. So if we want to look at Ted, let's see, we do have a game plan set up for him. So we're going to look at what that looks like. So we're creating a new game plan. We're going to first choose our resource. So in this case, we're going to look at our framer here. You can choose how frequently the game plan goes out. So I've chosen to have this game plan go out every day. You might want to do it once a week. It kind of depends on how quickly you expect things to change. I think daily is a good bet because it gets everyone in the habit of just checking their email for that game plan every single day. We'll look at what day to send on if you're doing it once a week, so you do have some options there. And then we also want to see, what time of day. So typically early morning is going to be best, but again, that will be up to you. So we'll just say that I want Ted to have this game plan in his inbox by 5:15 a.m. every day. I wanted to give him a look ahead of, everything that he's assigned to for the next week. I want to organize that by project because in this case, he is going to be working on multiple jobs for me. So it's really nice to group that by project, although you could do it just chronologically by date. And then I do want to receive an email copy in my inbox as well, which is really nice because that's a quick verification for you that the game plan did go out. You know exactly what's on it. So there's, not as much room for miscommunication there. So then basically, we're going to choose what's included. So we will say that we want anything on the calendar, on the schedule, on our to-do list, punch list, RFIs, checklist items, anything that is assigned to Ted here across all jobs. So one thing that's really wonderful about Game Plan is that it is resource specific, not project specific. So while you're looking in a portal, you would go to each individual job to see that information. With the game plan, it's going to pull all of that together for you in a single email. We'll save that. We really never have to worry about this again. Once you set up the game plan, all you have to do for it to work is assign this resource to different items on your project. As I'm assigning Ted as resources on my schedule, assigning him punch list items, assigning things like items on the to-do list, that those are going to be pulled together, automatically added to his game plan, and he'll get a nice email every morning that says, hey, Ted, here's your game plan for the next week. It'll list out all those projects together, give him a really wonderful list to work off of, and he'll be able to see exactly, what is going to need his attention at that point. So it's a simple email. You can see here that as of the date that this game plan was sent, Ted was only assigned to one item on one project, but it might be that by this time tomorrow, I've assigned him to 2 or 3 more, items on 2 or 3 different projects. So he's always going to be getting that up-to-date information delivered right to his email every single day.
Yeah, it's a really useful tool, and I think what makes it the most useful is that once you set the game plan, you can forget about it. You just work through the platform, continue assigning Ted to different projects, to different scheduled tasks, making sure that he's added to any events, maybe meetings, like safety meetings that he needs to attend. And ConstructionOnline takes care of keeping him up to date without overwhelming him with hundreds of tiny little reminder emails. Now, you can set that up for really key items throughout the platform. But really, there's something to be said about having a simple task list that sends out that you don't have to put together and continually maintain and update yourself manually.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of the work out of it. So much so that this is probably a good time as we wrap up today to talk a little bit about what we have lined up for you guys next in terms of training. So we will be actually having a workshop all about game plan and the different parts that make up the game plan next week. So next week on Thursday afternoon, we'll be having a webinar class or workshop on game plan, how to use it, how to set it up, which parts of ConstructionOnline are on the game plan, and how to work with those as well to really automate out that communication. You can buy yourself hours every week just by automating some of those day-to-day tasks of compiling information. We love the game plan. Anyone who's using it usually just really loves it because it's such a time saver. So our next workshop will focus on game plan. We also will have some sessions coming up that look at different communication tools in ConstructionOnline. We'll be looking at some of the other specific tools available to you, kind of how to empower some better communication with your team, and all sorts of other great topics. So on that front, if there are any classes that you would really love to see offered or things that you would like to know more about, please feel free to send us over an email, give us a call, send me a message directly and just say, hey, Holly, can you please, do a class on, I don't know, estimating or whatever it is that you'd like to see. We try to do these at least once or twice a week. We want to always be offering that continuing education for you guys as we are invested in your success. So definitely send that information our way. But I think for today, that wraps us up looking at the TeamLink portals. As always, if you have additional questions or maybe would like to have a conversation about how to use those TeamLink portals or how to set it up for your company, feel free to contact either myself or Jordan directly, or any of our product specialists here are happy to assist. So a quick phone call or email, we'd be happy to speak with you and talk to you about that or any of your other training needs. But until next time, thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for joining us. Hopefully you've enjoyed your lunch hour with us as we covered tips and tricks for using TeamLink. Thank you all, and we hope you have a great rest of your week, and we will see you ideally and hopefully next Thursday as we talk through the game plan. Thanks again, everyone.